Steph Curry rule. The baby-faced anarchist of defense. Let's be honest. Stephen Curry didn't just break records, he broke the game. Before Curry, the three-point line was like a casual side quest. After Curry, it became the main mission. Defenses were so confused, they looked like dads trying to figure out TikTok. By 2015, Curry was launching 30-footers like they were layups, and defenders were left chasing shadows. This forced the NBA to rethink what counted as a good shot, and even how defenses were allowed to react. Teams began switching their entire philosophy, blitzing pick and rolls 30 feet from the basket. But the biggest regulatory shift? The league had to retrain referees to stop defenders from getting too handsy 35 feet from the hoop. Because guess what? That was now scoring territory. It also led to a culture change. The freedom of movement rules got a major push around this time. You think that's a coincidence? Think again. These rules penalized defenders for grabbing and clutching off-ball shooters like Curry, which meant defenders now had to guard Curry like he was made of glass, explosive, high-scoring glass. So yes, Curry didn't just change how we play basketball. He forced a whole generation of defenders into therapy. The league had to evolve just to keep up with this baby-faced chaos engine. Luka Doncic rule, the slow-motion menace. Luka Doncic doesn't look fast. He looks like he's playing basketball in a dream where everything's underwater. And yet, somehow, you're the one drowning. Luka's ability to draw contact, especially with those just enough moves to bait defenders into fouls, made him a nightmare to officiate. By 2022, referees were basically Luka's unpaid interns. He'd drive to the rim, stop like he hit an invisible wall, let the defender bump him, and then sell it like a Tony Award-winning actor. Fans loved it. Opponents hated it. And the league? They had questions. That's where the NBA's interpretation update came in. Starting around 2022-2023, referees were given new training on how to identify non-basketball moves, pump fakes into defenders, unnatural launches, or leg kicks that were more WWE than NBA. And while this wasn't labeled the Luka rule officially, let's not kid ourselves. His name came up in those league office meetings more than once. The change didn't kill his game, of course. Luka adapted, but it did slightly lower his free throw attempts, and it was clear. The league wanted less bait, more basketball. So if you ever wondered how a guy built like a beefy barista got defenders to foul him 12 times a game, well, he didn't just play the game, he played the system, and the system finally fought back. Wilt Chamberlain rules. The man who broke basketball. If basketball were a video game, Wilt Chamberlain would have been the glitch. Dude scored 100 points in a single game, averaged over 50 points per season, and made grown men cry without even trying. Wilt was so dominant, the league had to nerf him like a broken Fortnite weapon. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. First, they made offensive goaltending illegal. Why? Because Wilt used to just jump up, catch shots mid-air, and dunk them in, like he was playing volleyball. Then came the lane widening, from 6 feet to 12. Why? Because Wilt would set up shop right under the rim and treat defenders like minor inconveniences. Doubling the lane meant he had to move farther from the basket, as if that actually stopped him. And the cherry on top? They changed his free throw routine. Wilt used to take off from the free throw line. Yes, literally jump from the line and dunk it. Legal at the time. The NBA saw that and said, "All right, that's enough." They forced him to shoot like everyone else. And ironically, that's where Wilt struggled the most. Wilt didn't just play basketball. He broke it. The NBA didn't adapt to him. It changed because of him. That's how unstoppable he was. Today's players need rules to survive. Wilt needed rules to be contained. Zaza Pachulia rule. The clumsiest assassin in NBA history. Zaza Pachulia isn't a name you expect in the same sentence as NBA history, unless the sentence is Zaza Pachulia accidentally altered NBA history with his size 17 clown shoes. But that's exactly what happened in Game 1 of the 2017 Western Conference Finals. Kawhi Leonard was torching the Golden State Warriors, 26 points in just 24 minutes, until Zaza closed out under him with all the grace of a collapsing bookshelf. Kawhi landed on Zaza's foot, twisted his ankle, and that was that. Series over. Spurs lost. Warriors breezed into the finals. Now, whether Zaza meant it or not is still up for barbershop debate, But the NBA wasn't taking chances. Enter the Zaza rule, which allows referees to call flagrant or technical fouls for dangerous closeouts, even if unintentional. In other words, don't slide under jump shooters like you're trying to take a charge from gravity. Before, this closeouts were aggressive but legal. After Zaza, shooters are sacred. The NBA basically wrapped their ankles in bubble wrap. The irony? Zaza was never a defensive juggernaut. He didn't change the league because of dominance. He changed it because of reckless enthusiasm. And yet, there it is, the Zaza rule. Proof that sometimes all it takes to rewrite NBA history is one bad step and one unlucky landing. Hack-a-Shaq. Free throws so ugly. They changed the rulebook. Shaquille O'Neal was a force of nature, a 7'1", 300-pound hurricane of broken rims and destroyed paint. But there was one thing Shaq couldn't conquer: free throws. Watching Shaq at the line was like watching a giraffe learn ballet. Painful, confusing, occasionally entertaining. So what did opposing coaches do? They weaponized his weakness. Enter Hack-a-Shaq. Teams would foul Shaq on purpose, even when they weren't near the ball, just to send him to the line and pray he bricked both. It was ugly basketball, but man, it worked. Games slowed to a crawl. Fans aged visibly. Even referees were checking their watches. Eventually, the NBA had enough. In the 2008-2009 season, they introduced a rule penalizing teams for fouling away from the ball in the final 2 minutes. If you did it, the other team got a free throw and the ball. The goal? End the free throw torture and keep games watchable. Did it work? Kinda. Coaches still hacked early in games, but late-game strategy shifted. Shaq, of course, wasn't thrilled. He once said, "I make them when they count," which is generously inaccurate. But let's give credit where it's due. Shaq was so good, the only way to stop him was to not play defense at all. Just commit a crime and let him miss. That's iconic in its own clunky way. Allen Iverson impact, the crossover that crossed the line. Allen Iverson didn't just cross over defenders, he crossed over the NBA's patience for what counted as dribbling. AI's handle was so nasty, it had defenders stumbling, like they'd been hit with a tranquilizer dart. But here's the catch. The NBA couldn't figure out if it was genius or just blatantly illegal. Before Iverson, carrying the ball was called sometimes. After Iverson, it got a full-on memo from the league. His now iconic crossover, high bounce, quick hesitation, hand just under the ball, left defenders flat and refs confused. Eventually, the NBA cracked down with stricter enforcement of carrying violations, quietly admitting that Iverson had exposed the gray area like a magician revealing his secrets. But that's not all. AI also redefined style, and not everyone liked it. Cornrows, baggy jeans, chains, do-rags. Iverson was unapologetically himself, and while that made him a cultural icon, it also made David Stern sweat. So, in 2005, the NBA dropped a dress code bomb, requiring business casual attire during team or league activities. No more oversized throwbacks, no more iced-out chains. Players had to look like insurance salesmen, even if they were walking buckets. So yes, Allen Iverson changed the game. Twice. Once on the court with a crossover that made the league rethink physics, and once off it by forcing the NBA to decide what a professional looked like. Spoiler, it wasn't baggy jeans and diamond studs. George Mikan rule, the original cheat code before Shaq, before Wilt, before the NBA even had shot clocks or color TV, there was George Mikan, the OG skyscraper. Standing at 6'10" in an era where most players looked like insurance agents moonlighting as athletes, McCann towered over everyone like a bored substitute teacher dominating a pickup game. He was so dominant that the NBA practically invented anti-McCann policies. First came the lane widening. Back then, the paint was just 6 feet wide, basically a hallway. McCann would set up camp, flip in baby hooks, and watch defenders cry. So, in 1951, the NBA said, "Okay, enough of that," and doubled the lane to 12 feet. Sound familiar? Yeah. They had to do it again later for Wilt, but Mikan was first. Then came the offensive 3-second rule. Why? Because George just stood in the paint like it was his living room. The league needed him to move, or at least pretend to, so they forced him to step out of the key every 3 seconds. Suddenly, footwork mattered. Spacing mattered. This game evolved. McCann's dominance even influenced the eventual creation of the shot clock. because stalling against him made for snooze-fest games with final scores like 1918. So, thanks George. He was slow, he wore glasses, he looked like he should be grading papers, but McCann warped the game so hard the league had to rewrite it. That's legend. Charles Barkley rule. Sir Charles and the human sleep machine. Charles Barkley had many talents: grabbing boards, talking trash, starting fights. But there's one thing Chuck did that the NBA simply couldn't tolerate. He made post-play boring as hell. Barkley loved backing people down. He'd post up on the elbow, plant his butt into a defender's ribs and just dribble. Not shoot, not pass, just dribble. For 20 seconds if you let him. It was like watching someone slowly drag a sofa across the floor. Painful, relentless, somehow still effective. So in 1999, the NBA said, "No more of this nonsense," and dropped the Charles Barkley rule. Players were given 5 seconds to make a move while backing down in the post with their back to the basket. Take longer, and it's a turnover. Just like that, Sir Charles lost his favorite way to kill the vibe. It wasn't that Barkley broke the rules. It's that he weaponized boredom. He made isolation post-play look like a DMV line in slow motion. The league wanted speed, excitement, something watchable. Barkley was out here reenacting sumo matches. So now, every time a big man has to move, quick in the post, they can thank Chuck, not for the buckets, but for being so painfully slow. The NBA had to invent a shot clock for backing down. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar rule. The dunk ban that created a weapon. In the 1960s, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Then Lou Alcindor was doing something unspeakable in college. He was dunking. A lot. Too much, apparently. So much that the NCAA looked at this 7-2 menace and thought, we need to ban gravity. In 1967, they passed the Alcindor rule, straight up banning dunks in college basketball. The official excuse? Safety. And maintaining the spirit of the game. The real reason? Kareem was making other players look like inflatable car lot dancers. It was so blatant. People still debate if the rule was racially motivated. After all, it targeted a young, dominant black athlete who was changing the game and couldn't be stopped. But here's the twist. Taking away Kareem's dunk didn't make him weaker. It made him mythic. To adapt, he perfected the skyhook. A move so unblockable it should be illegal. He'd turn, release the ball with one hand, and opponents could only wave at it like it was a balloon drifting away. That one move made him the NBA's all-time leading scorer for decades. So yeah, they tried to stop Kareem. They took away his power dunk. In response, he built a finesse weapon that became his legacy. Joke's on them, the dunk ban was eventually lifted in 1976, but the damage, or should we say, the magic, was done. Kareem didn't just survive the rule, he turned it into the most elegant middle finger in basketball history. James Harden rule. The art of the forced foul. James Harden is a lot of things: scorer, MVP, beard enthusiast. But at one point, he was basically a professional foul farmer. Harden mastered the dark arts of drawing contact. He could turn a soft breeze into 2 free throws. He turned defenders into unwilling co-stars in his nightly performance of, "Oops, you fouled me again." You reach, he hooks your arm. You close out, he flails. You blink, that's 3 shots, buddy. By 2021, it got so absurd that watching Harden was like watching a man win an Oscar and a free throw contest every night. The league finally said enough and introduced the James Harden rule before the 2021 to 2022 season. What changed? The NBA cracked down on non-basketball moves that only existed to trick refs. The kind where offensive players jumped sideways, threw their bodies into defenders, or created contact that looked like it was choreographed by Cirque du Soleil. The result? Harden's free throw attempts plummeted, and suddenly, he looked mortal, still elite. But now defenders didn't have to play defense like they were avoiding landmines. It wasn't just about Harden. Trae Young, Luka Doncic, and others were also milking the whistle. But Harden? He was the poster boy, the artist of the unnatural act. So now, when refs swallow the whistle on a weird flail, remember, that's the ghost of Harden's past. He changed the rule book by exploiting every loophole until the league closed the store. Darryl Dawkins' rule. The man who broke the game. Literally. Darryl Dawkins didn't just dunk, he detonated. His dunks weren't slams, they were events. They had names. The Rim Wrecker, the Chocolate Thunder Flying, Robozine Cryogenic, Earth Slapping, Backboard Slapping, Glass Breaking, rump-roasting jam. Yes, that's a real one. In 1979, Dawkins threw down a dunk so violent it shattered the backboard into a crystal rainstorm of glass and shame. A few weeks later, he did it again. NBA arenas were suddenly danger zones. Opponents feared his strength. Maintenance crews feared for their lives. So the NBA said, "Okay, this man is a safety hazard," and implemented what became the Darryl Dawkins rule. It didn't ban dunking, but it forced the league to change the entire infrastructure of the game. The NBA introduced breakaway rims and upgraded backboards to withstand earthquakes disguised as dunks. Dawkins wasn't just a dunker. He was a showman. He claimed to be from Planet Lovetron. He spoke in rhymes. He was like if pro wrestling moved into basketball. But behind the theatrics was a player so physically dominant, he forced the NBA to rethink their equipment. Every rim you see today that bends but doesn't snap, thank Chocolate Thunder. He didn't just break backboards, he broke expectations of what power looked like on the court. Michael Jordan rule, the blueprint for defensive desperation. You know you're him when the entire Detroit Pistons franchise dedicates an entire rulebook to stopping you. Enter the Jordan rules. These weren't official NBA rules. No, they were a hitman's guide disguised as a defensive scheme. The late 80s Pistons, aka the Bad Boys, saw that Michael Jordan was ascending too quickly, too smoothly, and decided to play Mortal Kombat instead of basketball. The Jordan rules were simple. Hit him when he drives. Double team him on. The catch. Make him pass. And if he still scores, hit him harder. Jordan was hunted every time he touched the ball, like a deer in hunting season. And the crazy part? It worked. For a while. The Pistons sent him packing in the playoffs multiple times. But here's where it gets poetic. The NBA got fed up with the mugging. By 1994, they changed the rules around illegal defenses and hand-checking, subtly promoting ball movement and more fluid offense. Translation? The Jordan isolation show had to share the stage. Defenders could no longer just pin someone in place and go full WWE. Jordan evolved, of course. He always did. But the league's changes after his era ushered in the era of finesse, because nobody wanted another superstar getting body slammed while trying to shoot a fadeaway. So yes, Jordan didn't just break ankles. He broke defensive systems so badly the NBA had to nerf defense itself. Larry Bird, exception, the loophole of loyalty. Larry Bird didn't just redefine the forward position, he redefined the business of basketball. When the NBA implemented the salary cap in 1983, they wanted to control team spending, keep things competitive, and stop big markets from buying championships. But then came a problem. What if you wanted to keep your own superstar without wrecking your cap? Enter the Larry Bird exception, aka the NBA's way of saying, this rule doesn't apply if you're re-signing a legend. The exception allows teams to exceed the salary cap in order to re-sign their own players. Why? Because when Boston faced the prospect of losing Bird, or anyone like him, the league realized that penalizing teams for building loyalty was just bad PR. This loophole saved dynasties. It helped teams like the Lakers keep Magic and Kobe, the Spurs keep Duncan, and yes, the Warriors keep their death squad intact. Bird's impact was so massive, his name became embedded in the very structure of NBA contracts. And let's be real, can you imagine Larry Bird in free agency? Guy looked like he hated vacation. He wasn't going to Miami. He was going to beat Miami, with one shoe untied. So next time a franchise player signs a supermax and stays put, thank Larry. His impact wasn't just on the court. It's in the spreadsheets. Draymond Green rule, the mouth that roared and got ejected. Draymond Green's greatest skill might not be defense. It might not even be passing. It might just be talking trash with such venomous precision that entire NBA rosters need a group hug afterward. But his influence on the rulebook? Oh, it's real. Draymond has been one of the most technically foul-prone players of all time. And the NBA, clearly exhausted by having to review 100 clips of Draymond screaming at refs like they stole his lunch money, had to step in. After his legendary 2016 Finals ejection for accumulating too many technicals, which may or may not have cost the Warriors the championship, the league tweaked its enforcement of tech fouls and flagrant points. Now, there's a whole point system in place during the playoffs. Accumulate enough techs or flagrants and you're automatically suspended. Yes, Draymond got gamified. The man is literally a walking strike system. But the cherry on top? The NBA also redefined what's considered hostile acts. a rule. You just know was made after one too many Draymond groin kicks, stomps, and love taps to the midsection. Now referees have to analyze these moments with slow-mo like they're at a war tribunal. Draymond's passion is unmatched, but thanks to him, the rulebook's now 20 pages longer, and half of it is written in all caps with "if Draymond does this" at the top. So, next time someone tells you the NBA's just about talent, remind them. Some players were so good, so annoying, or just so extra, the league literally had to pull out a pen and say, "Yeah, we're gonna need a rule for that. Thanks for watching." And hey, if you're wondering what other players broke the NBA rulebook, stick around. The list isn't done, not even close.